Yes, you heard the Mikel Arteta and his appraisal of Bukayo Saka was a glowing one. And of course, we'll do our own appraisal here in the studio. I've got with me here in-house researcher Ibikunle Salako to, of course, discuss Saka and his return. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Aramida. How are you doing?
Yeah, and fine, very fine, thank you. And what a class performance by Saka after a couple of months of him being away, and he returned and got a goal in 6 odd minutes.
Really happy for the young lad. Been out for 3 months. I think he got injured in, if I'm not wrong, March 21. They were playing Crystal Palace. Hamstring injury, required surgery. You know, damping the mood a bit at the Emirates because obviously they were trying to, upstage Liverpool and get back into contention for the Premier League. They struggled a bit without him because obviously they lost Saka, they lost Gabriel Jesus, they lost Kai Havertz, and they had to play Mikel Merino as a makeshift 9. It was good and bad because it was bad because obviously they lost their talisman, but it was good because they helped guys like Ethan Nwaneri come into their own, and you could see how great the young British Nigerian has done over the last few months. But for Bukayo Saka, really happy for him. 6 minutes and I think 40-something seconds on the pitch.
Yeah.
Got the goal, very brilliant cross came in from Merino. Brazilian flick from Martinelli, and was at the far post to just head the ball in. So really, really happy for the guy.
Absolutely, and I want us to talk about Saka still, right? The recovery of athletes is never easy.
Yeah.
When it comes to the mental aspects, I'm sure you can relate to that a lot. What does it take for a young man like him, of course, injured, out for a concerted period, and then he comes on and he acts like he's not been away for a long time?
Well, if you saw the game, you would have seen his reaction immediately after the goal. The first thing he did was went straight to the medical team. The physios, like Arteta said, the physios, the sports science guys. It takes a lot because first of all, when you get injured as a professional athlete, nobody wants to. No professional athlete wants to sit on the sidelines. So obviously, there's that mental aspect to it of I won't be playing for a while. But then when you now go through the scan, the process, and you get to understand that there's a fixed period to it. It's 2 months, it's 3 months, it's a month. Then that's where the hard work comes into play because at first they were not fearing for the injury to be as long as it was. But when they noticed that it was a full tear of the hamstring, it required surgery, and they wanted to get it right. And sometimes guys go on these sort of injuries and they look like they are back, they are good, then they relapse. But like you mentioned, it's not always very easy. Apart from the physical aspects, which obviously a lot of it is in your hands in terms of how much work you put in doing rehab, what's the level of physical activity that you were put through by the physio. A lot of it comes down to the mental part of it, and that's where Saka has flourished. He's shown that he's strong mentally, he's shown that upstairs in terms of his mental ability, his mental capacity, he's able to put whatever injuries he's had, behind him and get to action. Because you see him yesterday, he came on, the first few touches were not Saka-esque, but immediately settled into the game, got the goal, and from then, he was himself again, dribbling, passing. And one thing I respect a lot about Saka is he's 23, 24. I'm 23 years old. But over the last few seasons when he's been playing, I think 3-4 years down the line now, his decision making, I don't think people talk about his decision making enough. He's one of those few guys that come into a side as a young star, and right away, he knows when to pass, he knows when to dribble, he knows when to cross. He knows when to call together a double team. It feels like everything he does is a bit doctored, just like Lamine Yamal in Barcelona. You don't get to see too many young stars come into a side and not make so many mistakes. And that's something I really respect Saka about. He's level-headed, he's cool-headed, he knows what he's doing, he knows when to do what he wants to do. And that's something that has also helped him. And obviously, you could see yesterday, he helped him really, he helped him a lot with the injury. And also, I think the mood in the Arsenal team, the players were really happy to see him back. Arteta, you could see Arteta grinding at this post-match conference. The physio guys immediately scored, he went to them. So there's that sort of togetherness in the team. And it also makes it easy for anybody to come back from whatever injuries they have.
As you say, of course, he's a player that lifts the moods of his teammates and the coaching staff and everybody in and around the club. But we need to revisit the conversation about whether or not he's world-class. This was a major bone of contention some months ago. But you look at the charts, the assist charts now, even goals as well. He's been away for a while, but even while he was away, 10 assists, and that's the joint second most in the league, despite him being 3 months away from action. Look at his numbers as well. Do you think he's coming into his own and is now outrightly a world-class player?
World class, maybe 1 or 2 more seasons of top flight football. I think when you're going into that realm of being world class, I think one thing that people sort of like downplays titles. I think that's something that has been a bit of injustice to the young man. He's not won as much titles as he would have loved to win, and I think Arsenal have titles in them. So when they start winning titles, then we can start talking about him delving into that red. But when it comes to pure numbers, you look at his Premier League numbers: 17 matches played, 16 goal contributions. Like you said, he's been out for about 3 months, and he still joined second on the assist list. So who knows? Maybe I think this is match week 31. So he's probably missed about 14 Premier League games if I'm not wrong. So who knows? Maybe if he had played those 14 games, only God knows what his assist numbers.
And you have to consider the impact of him while he's on the pitch and while Arsenal are without him.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah, and it just speaks to, obviously we tend to look at how good Arteta has been for the side. How he has revamped them, that belief and their playing system. But you understand that things as little as even their corner kicks, their set pieces, their numbers have dropped. When Saka was around, whipping the crosses from the right, Declan Rice whipping it from the left, they posed a real threat to people. Gabriel Magalhaes, Saliba, Kai Havertz. But we placed so much reverence and importance to the set piece coach or the head coach, but we're forgetting the guys that actually put the crosses in, and that's something that that's the reason why they've struggled over the last few months when Saka has been away. Because now you need to understand the sort of skill, the sort of technicality you have to have, that 3 or 4 corners goes to the head of the person you're trying to send it to. You understand me? So teams play 9, 8, 10 corners in a game, and they find it very hard to get on the end of one. But you look at Arsenal with Saka whipping the cross from the right. If he puts in 4, 3 of those corner kicks are going to the head of an Arsenal player.
Yeah.
So those sort of things, he's really, really impacted the team a lot. And you could see those numbers: 2.1 goals when he's on the pitch, 1.9 per game when he's not on the pitch. So even his presence alone, reminds me of a certain Steph Curry in basketball. When Steph Curry is on the court, he might not be doing the scoring, but his presence on the pitch opens up space for others. And that's something that Saka has too. His presence on the pitch, that's one of the reasons why Odegaard has struggled too in recent weeks, because with Saka on that right-hand side and Odegaard occupying the half space, that there's so much attention on Saka, that it gives guys like Odegaard the opportunity to roam and do their thing. So his importance is way beyond the numbers. It's the eye test itself. It tells you how important he is to the Arsenal setup.